at Trendy and today I'm going to show you how to make this stacked wreath. We used two wreath forms, lime paper mesh and yellow paper mesh, and we did our center a little different on this sunflower, okay? And you can take these same directions and apply to any color of the paper mesh that we have in stock. All the supplies came from Trendy, and we'll post the supplies. We'll have a limited number of kits that contain everything you need to make this, but once the kits sell out, you can always buy the individual products or another color of the paper or something like that to do your wreath. Okay, let's get started. Our supplies for this wreath are going to be 10-inch wide yellow paper mesh and 10-inch wide lime green paper mesh, some 2.5-inch burlap ribbon, and we're going to use two pencil wreaths. This is what's going to be like a stacked wreath method. And we're going to take our first wreath, which is lime green. This is a standard 24-inch wreath. And I want you to notice on our standard 24-inch wreath, the metal ring actually measures 15 inches across. And then we're going to stack on top of that a 10-inch pencil wreath. And it actually does measure 10 inches across. Now, why we started out describing them like that, I'm not sure. But this is a 24-inch wreath, and usually when you add your products to it, you wind up with a wreath that is, 28 to 30 inches wide. I'm going to show you how, first, how we're going to connect the wreaths. We're going to use some zip ties, and I'm just going to lay that 10-inch wreath on top of the 24, and I'm going to try to sort of alter it to where the ties don't lay right on top of each other. It's not going to work out perfectly, but I'm going to angle it a little bit anyway. And you can see it's not going to come over to that ring completely. So I'm going to use some zip ties, and I'm just going to put 3 zip ties in place. It may take more than 3. But I'm just going to kind of loosely connect them to start with, and then I'll tighten them up. I think what I'll do is sort of attach them at the post. If you go on one side of the post and come around, it may help secure that a little easier or a little stronger. That's 3, so I'm going to go ahead and use 4 zip ties. And then I'm just going to gradually snug up those zip ties where it'll be connected about the same on each area. Okay. Alright, and that's pretty secure. Now, we're going to snip off the end of our zip ties with wire cutters. Don't use your scissors. You'll ruin them. Okay, now we have our 2 wreaths together. The next thing we're going to do is use the lime green paper mesh to make our leaves. Now this is mesh made out of paper. It does have a coating on it to help with a little water resistance, but it is made out of paper. So it needs to be used in an area that's protected from moisture. And also, as it's a wide weave, any product like this is going to ravel. There's nothing you can do to stop it from raveling. Just know that, you're going to have some raveling, and at the end you're going to have to clip some strings. Now the only thing that I have found that helps with raveling is to handle the paper as little as possible and make as few cuts in it as possible. So that's why we always use the 10-inch width for the petals or leaves. We're going to cut This, of course, is 10 inches wide, and we're going to cut lengths of 10 inches. The first thing we're going to do is start with our green petals. And if you notice, the mesh has a natural tendency to curl up like that. Well, you want to flip that over, and you want to take a corner and bring it to the inside. Take the opposing corner and bring it to the inside, and then you want to scrunch that up. You want to hold it to where you have these cut edges on the inside. Flip it over. It sort of looks like a bow tie. And then you start on we're going to start on the outer ring of the wreath, and just take any twist, it doesn't matter where you start, and lay it down in the twist and just give it about 2 twists. You don't have to do more than that right now because we're going to add in another layer. And then take that petal and kind of push it together where it sort of makes a V and points to the outside. And then we're going to do 2 layers. We're going to do it the same manner. Just flip the paper over. Like I say, you're going to have some strings. Bring a corner to the center, another corner to the center, and then just pinch it up. Turn it over. Now you're going to go back to that same twist. Undo that twist. Make sure that petal stays in place, and lay your second petal down right on top of it. And this time you can give it 3 or 4 twists because we're going to be through with it. And then you can take those twists and tuck them to the inside out of the way. And then again, take your paper, kind of let it push it out to the outside. And then we're going to work all the way around the wreath in that same manner. We're going to do the outer ring, 2 petals in each twist. There's our wreath after we've gone all the way around the outer ring with 2 layers of ruffles. And see, you can see strings. You can clip those now. If they get tangled up, you may have to clip some to, get them out of your way, or you can just wait till you're through. Just remember to don't handle your petals too much. When you're finished, you may want to put your hands under there, just to fluff them up a little bit. But paper mesh, it's just like I say, it's paper. And the more you handle it, the softer it's going to get. And for sure, you don't want to lay it down where anything is laying on it, because it will flatten it out and you won't be able to get the shape back once it's flattened out. We're going to start now on the second layer of the green and go all around that that ring with 2 layers of petals. Typically on a 10-yard roll of mesh, and making 10-inch cuts, you should get 36 pieces. On this particular one, I didn't. I only got 35, but it really won't matter. It'll never show. So on this last twist, I only have 1 petal to go in there, but it won't be noticed. Sometimes you might get 35, sometimes you might get, 1 extra. I think I had maybe, that last piece would have only been about 4 or 5 inches, so I didn't use it. We're going to cut the yellow mesh just like we did the green. It's going to be in 10-inch lengths. When you're cutting your paper, you don't have to use one of these cutters. You can use scissors just as well. I can't tell that the raveling has made any difference whether you use scissors or whether you use a rotary cutter. The rotary cutter just speeds the cutting time up a little bit. The 10-inch work wreath only has 12 twists, and if we put 2 petals in each one, of course that would be 24. So you'll have some yellow left over, and after we've done 2 petals in each one, if we wanted to do 3, you'd have enough of the paper mesh to do 3. After you've gone around the outer ring of the yellow, then you just want to go to the inner ring. Like I say, you'll have extra mesh, extra paper left over. If you're like me, I don't like to I like to use up what I have. But what you might want to do if you wanted to add in any extra petals is go into a space in between the twist and add, you know, a petal in there just using a chenille stem, and I'll show you how to do that if you want to add some extra. Now if you wanted to add some extra, you make your 2 petals in the same fashion, just lay them down on top of each other, take a chenille stem and just cut it in half. And then take that half a chenille stem and go on the top of your petal and bring it around to the back and twist it together. So you made sort of a pick, and then just find a place, you know, on your wreath, like there's a pretty good space between these 2 petals here. So I would just take the chenille stem and put that down. Anytime you're connecting something, if you can go by a post, that's always good. But slip it over that, just reach under the bottom and secure your chenille stem from the bottom. And then just push your petals to the outside, same way. Now when you attach something with a chenille stem, it will kind of slip and slide on the wire, but that doesn't really matter. So if you have any other places that you've got a pretty good space, you know, between your twist, you've got enough mesh to add in as much extra as you would like. Okay, there's our wreath after we did 2 layers of ruffles in the yellow wreath. So you can look at it now and see if you want to go back into any of these areas and put in another cluster. You can. You have enough paper. I wasn't even thinking about it when I cut my paper, and I went ahead and cut my whole roll up, you know, into 10 inches. If I hadn't cut my paper, I might not put in some extra. But since I have, I'm going to go ahead and make maybe 3 more clusters of 2 and attach those to the inside, and then we'll work on filling up the center. And another way that you might attach your 2 extra clusters or petals is to say, you know, like on the first ring where we took our twist and tucked them to the inside, you can always just fashion those to where you can use that same twist. It'll make it pretty short. You don't have a lot to work with, but it will still work. In some places it'll work out and you'll have enough. Some places you won't. But that way you don't even have to use the chenille stem. Okay? Usually when you're attaching something from the back of your wreath, like this chenille stem pick, I would say flip the wreath over, and so you can do it. But in case of this paper mesh, I wouldn't do that because you don't want to lay it down to where it will flatten your petals down. So just, you can reach your fingers under from the back and work back there. And then you can always hold it up later to check your back to see if you've got anything sharp sticking out that you need to cover up or anything. I wound up putting in about 3 extra clusters. So now we're ready to fill in our center. And if you've looked at our tutorials, we've done our centers several different ways. We've used just stem balls and burlap. Today we're going to do something a little different. We're going to make essentially a rose out of burlap ribbon, and then we're going to put that in the center. And this gives you an idea of what it's going to look like. This is not the one that we're going to make. This is out of 1.5 inch, but we're going to use 2.5 inch for this. But I just sort of wanted you to see what we're going for. This is a burlap ribbon, and we have it in 2.5 inch, and that's what we're going to make our flower out of. This is 2.5 inch burlap. It's wired. It has wire on both sides. So what we're going to do is start out by pulling the wire. I'm going to pull the wire and gather that ribbon. Now this is burlap ribbon, so it's not quite as easy to gather as a satin or other type of ribbon, but it still works okay. It's just going to take you a little while to do this part. You want to just keep gathering, pulling that wire out, and just kind of roll it up in your hands there, and just keep gathering. You want it about, let's see, You want to have your gathers about like that. Keep gathering until you have about 3 yards of gathered ribbon. Excuse me. Now typically to make a flower, we would start rolling that ribbon. Get your wire up here so you can have it, and just keep rolling it, keeping the ends, those wired edges very close together. And you just roll it up and roll it up till you get the size flower that you want. And usually, let me go a couple more times. Say if you wanted to make your flower about like that, then you could take this wire that's already on your ribbon and just go around that wired edge, pull it tight, and you could just wrap that wire around and around, and then you can, fluff out your rose. But with this, this is going to have to be a much larger rose, so I'm just afraid that might not hold it. I'm afraid that it might pull out from the center. So what I'm going to do is just take a needle and thread. It'll just take a little more time, but I think it'll make it more secure in the long run. And I'm just going to start rolling this up. When you start rolling, you may want to fold your very beginning end to the inside. And then I'm just going to start rolling that up. I'm just going to take a double strand of sewing thread, and this is an embroidery needle with a dull point. And as I roll that, I'm going to catch right under that wire edge, and I'm just going to do just my knot pulled out, like an overcast stitch, about maybe every 1/4 of an inch, and I'm just going to stitch that together as I go. Let me see. Sorry. As I roll that around, you want to keep those wire edges as close together as you can get them. I'm just going to stitch that together. As your flower gets a little bigger, it gets a little easier to see exactly where you need to put your needle, but you just want to slide it under that wire and connect it to the last round. Just keep working around. Like I say, this will take a little more time, but I think it'll be worth it in the long run. See? But we've got to still make a larger one, so it will just keep on till we go all the way around using up all this ribbon. And once you've finished, of course, this is your wire on your end, and then this is your wire from your beginning. You could just bring those to the center and just twist them together. And like I say, we might need that. I don't know yet. And there's your rose. You can just fluff that out a little bit. If you've got any loose strings on the inside, you can either clip those or just kind of tuck that first roll in. But I don't think we'll have the problems with the flower coming apart since we did the stitching on the back. And if you wanted to, you could run some hot glue over that also, just as an extra precaution, but I don't really think we'll need it. We're going to center it right in the middle of the wreath. Now at this point, if for some reason your flower is not big enough to cover up that center, well, you can always go back and cut you another couple of yards of ribbon and just keep making it bigger. But that's going to fit pretty good. This is where you could use an extra hand. I have my rows in the center, and those 2 wires that I told you we wanted to keep for right now, I'm going to use those right now. I've separated them, and I'm going to use those to just kind of get a general attachment. I'll just go around the wreath form, but I'll go around the wreath form with 1 wire at the bottom and 1 wire at the top, making sure that my flower stays in the center. And then we're going to also put in some additional wire to secure it even more. I don't know how well you can see this, but my wire that was coming out of the center, I took one end and tied it to the top of the inner ring, and the other end to the right opposite from that. And then I twisted them together, and I'm going to take these pieces that come out from the side, and I'm going to secure it on each side. You can always add in little extra pieces of floral wire. Since you have it connected at the top, bottom, and side to side, you can go in and say, like at the 2 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock, not 6 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock positions, and just put in a little more wire. And if you wanted to, you could always run a little hot glue around the edge of your flower and just secure it, you know, for just some extra if you have any gaps or anything. But I think that's fine. I think that's secure enough. Okay, so now all we have to do is clip strings. I wanted to share with you a product that we're experimenting with to see it will help with the raveling on the paper mesh. This is Elmer's Craft Bond in a spray can, and what I did after my wreath was finished, I took each petal, or almost each petal, and just sort of lifted it out and sprayed it. It does take a while to dry. I just left this one overnight and then looked at it the next day, and the petals that I sprayed are stiffer, and I think the raveling is going to be less. Now, you just want to be sure that when you spray your petals, you lift out the petals and spray the edges. So they don't get stuck back together. Just kind of lift them out. I didn't spray them all. These on the bottom, I think I didn't spray. It's messy and it will get on your hands. But if you just kind of separate the petals so that they don't stick together, and just let those dry good. I think that's going to help. Sometimes the strings will just kind of fall out no matter what you do, but and you can kind of shape those petals too. Now, how this will hold up, you know, in the long run, I don't know. You will just have to, you know, do it at your own risk and just experiment with it and see. But I think it's going to help. We're also in the process of testing some other products, and I'll let you know about that. We're going to do a video, but I believe this is going to help. Okay? There's a wreath. After we finished it, it measures about 28 inches in width. And when you're clipping strings, if you'll clip them with scissors instead of pulling on them, sometimes you can start pulling on something like this and you just get a never-ending continuation of strings. So always look at the back of your wreath and make sure that you don't have any sharp wires or anything sticking out. If you do, kind of push those to the inside or cover them up with a little tape or something if you have to. And again, this is paper mesh. It's made out of paper. It's not, it does have some moisture resistance properties, but not like the Deco Poly mesh. It has a coating on it, but it still has to be kept away from moisture. So it's a good wreath to use on the inside or only in a very well protected area, you know, where it's not going to come in contact with rain or dew or anything. Thanks for watching our video. We hope you'll share the link with your friends. And if you will, subscribe to our channel. There's a little icon down at the bottom of your screen. You just click on that, and that way you'll get a notice the next time we put out a new video. We have Facebook. We're on Facebook and Pinterest, so we'd like for you to, if you'd find us there and give us a like on Facebook and follow along with us and check out our Pinterest. We have like thousands of wreaths that our customers have made. We have images that are posted on our Pinterest board. And we also have a new line of home decor, lanterns, battery candles, and so forth. So be sure and check us out at Trendy Tree at www.trendytree.com. Again, thanks for dropping in. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.